if you have started work on it, it is considered a whip. If you do have a problem with how many whips I have, that fluff stuff gets everywhere. So you were going, made a giant patchwork thingy. I've miscounted somewhere. I haven't done that right. I don't open this often, so Yoshi's. Yep. That brings our total up then. Let's count these whips. My guess is I've got somewhere between 400 and 500. But we'll see. So let's start with my thingies. My thingies are my sensory toys that I make. And so I have a bunch that I have in process. Now, normally I do make quite a number of these throughout the year, but I have been put on hold because of my wrist. So I can only go so far with the process and then I can't make any more. So I've just been putting them to the side at the moment. So let's see how many I've got ready to or in the process of going. Some of these materials that you can see are already available on my website. Still do have some products, so if you are interested in the colors, I only have a couple. I injured my wrist not long after I started making these ones, so these are my fairy floss thingies that I like. Pretty sure I've still got some rainbow stripe ones. They're always very popular. I bought them out one year for Pride. Yeah, as long as I can get the material, I'll be making Pride ones. Okay, so first box, we are currently up to what's that, 41. Originally had sold my things as a business under the unique Jacky Art and Craft name, but as my health got worse and deteriorated, I needed to back off. Basically, I couldn't keep up with it, so it's now a hobby. Did a lot of this prep work when it was still a business. Some leftover material from my sister when we were in St. John Ambulance Volunteers. So she was in a part of a group called RAT, so it's a recreational activities team, and they would customize their own overalls. That was many years ago. I had just enough left over to make 3 fluffy rainbow thingies out of it, so I've got that all cut up, ready to go. And when my wrist is back in action, they will appear on my website too. So probably not until later in the year, if not till next year. But watch out for what I'm going to call my pink monster thingies, because they remind me of the pink monster on the South Australian Christmas pageant. If you're an Adelaidean, you'll know what I mean. So these came out one year because the zebra is the mascot of the Ehlers-Danlos syndromes and hypermobile spectrum disorders, because they're fairly rare conditions. And when doctors are taught about in their medical degrees, they're taught in the early years to think horses, not zebras. In other words, think common things rather than the rare things. The rare things exist, but it's more likely to be a common condition. Now, the reason we took the zebras is because we are those zebras. So even though they're taught to think about the horses, they do have to remember zebras still exist. Like, they're not unicorns. They're not mythical. They are actually a real thing. So even though we're rare, we are still here. So that's why we use the zebra as the mascot, and often call ourselves zebras. Got fluff in my cup of tea. So we just had 94 in that box, so that is 41 plus 94 is 135 we're up to. Now, I took everyone's advice. I've been asking around hello Yoshi, what everyone considers a whip, And if you have started work on it, it is considered a whip. That seems to be the general consensus. So if you've cut something out, it's a whip. Hence why I'm counting all these squares and beginning to regret. Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if I want to know how many whips I actually have. Are you enjoying that there, Yoshi? Do they smell good? I'm hoping that counting all of these will, one, stop me from buying any more like products and material and wool and yarn and projects, and two, motivate me to actually finish some of my projects like before I start new ones. Although I'm already tempted to start a new one already. I'm looking at maybe starting a new jumper that I have been wanting to do, like I've been wanting to make my own clothes, so I kind of feel that's justified. I don't know why I even have to justify it. It's like, why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we make it like put these rules and things on place? It doesn't matter how many projects I have or you have or anyone has, as long as we're happy, as long as it's not a problem for us, as long as it's not bringing us down. And my projects and my number of whips has never been an issue for me. The only reason I'm even wanting to bring them down a little bit is because I live in a very small space, and so I'm also very tempted to buy new products and start new hobbies. And I just sometimes need to remind myself that I have a lot on the go at the moment, and maybe I need to work on some of them first. And so my plan is, when I finish a project, then I can start a new one. When I finish like something, actually, I was going to say when I use up something, then I can replace it. But actually, I want to reduce how much space my projects are taking up, so that I've got room for other things as well. I've just found as my health has deteriorated, I just need a little bit more space for things like mobility aids and moving around and having other people in my space, like support workers and cleaners and all of those things. So that's why I'm trying to declutter and reduce a little bit. I'm going to get it all so that I can actually see it, use it, and enjoy it. So like I said, I don't think it matters how many whips or projects or things you have, as long as it's not a problem for you. So as long as it's not bringing you down or becoming a fire hazard or an issue for you personally. But I don't think it should matter to anyone else on the internet how many whips I have. And if you do have a problem with how many whips I have, maybe stop and think about why that is, because it's certainly not an issue for me. I only got 23 of them, and there is a reason why I don't have 24, and that's because I used one in an art piece that I made. I made a giant patchwork thingy, which I've donated to the Rapid Enterprise Development group. It was a artwork that was designed by bringing pieces together that represented my sort of healing journey. And so each material represented a person or an object or a thing or something that helped me in my journey of discovering my disabilities and finding my way, my new way, I suppose, my new journey in life. I kind of feel my life has been like split into two parts. I already counted them. I've got the before I had to medically retire and the after I medically retired. And they feel like two very different parts of my life. And I don't think you can really compare either of them. I had the time when I was feeling fit and healthy and going well for the most part, and I was able to work and I was exercising and I was managing and everything. I didn't realize at the time that everything was on this tightrope, and I was just balancing along that for the longest time ever without ever realizing what was going on underneath the surface of my body. I ended up finding my thingies and finding my business and finding myself in a whole new way. I went through a lot, and I went down before I went back up again, but I finally feel like I'm in a place where I can be creative again and I can feel like me. My life is so different to what it was in many ways, but also so similar in many ways too. And I think some of the things that I don't think are ever going to change about me is that that creativity and my brain just being wired that way, I suppose. But let's see how many we got in this box and add it to our total. 87 in that box. So our total currently stands at 222, and we've only counted thingies. Not even all of my thingies. I don't know if you can see the mess that is on the floor. That would be a Yoshi and Cosmo mess, combined with a bit of fluff now from me. But okay, then we have a crochet sensory bag. That fluff stuff gets everywhere. Okay, so we got one of them. It just needs to be lined. So I've got this beautiful faux mink material to line it with, and I'll put pockets in it as well. So when you put it inside your hand, like your hand inside the bag, oh, so nice. And then I've got this one, which I made for my mum as a Christmas present. And again, all I've got left is to line it because the way it's designed they'll catch. So I've just got to line that. I'm just going to put Christmas material. Yeah. So we're going to line it with that pretty Christmas material. 2 more to add to the list. I have a bunch more thingies here. Done a little bit more work on these ones. So these ones are sewn, and they just need to be stuffed and then added faces and closed up. So we've got one. I found this one. I thought I've used them all up, but it's like a faux mink with like bumps on it. And if I stuff it the right way, when you push down the bumps, it kind of acts like a poppet type thing. So it kind of pushes it down and then pops back up. They were very popular, and I sold out of the light blue, but I have found one, so I have one left. I probably won't put it on my website as a sale. I will probably put it into my mystery bags, so it will end up in one of my mystery bags. So these ones have been stuffed, and their faces have been so they get a bit of a haircut if they've got long fur. So they've got a little bit of a these ones have had their haircut, but they haven't had their faces added on. So there's 2 of them and 1 of the star ones, and he's got his face on it. So he just literally needs to be sewn up. So that's another 3 there. Okay, so these are my knitted ones. For anyone who doesn't know, my original thingy was something that I designed when I was 8. I was making a scarf. I was a huge fan. I say huge fan. I was going to say a huge fan of football. I wasn't a huge fan of football. I was a huge fan of my grandpa. And he was a huge fan of football, especially of the Glenelg Tigers. And so I used to be a fan of the Glenelg Tigers because my grandpa went for the Glenelg Tigers. And so they're a local AFL team for anyone who doesn't know. So I used to go to the football matches with him, and I would knit a scarf. It was supposed to be a scarf, but I was 8. I was a good knitter. It was straight, so it wasn't like I'd gotten past that point, but I didn't have a lot of patience at 8, and so a scarf takes a long time when you're knitting, and I get bored of scarves. I still get bored of knitting scarves. So I was knitting a scarf and I got bored. And so I decided to cast off, and I ended up with a bit of material, a bit of knitting that I didn't know what to do with. So I turned it into my first thingy. It didn't quite look exactly the same as these ones, but it became my first thingy. And that's what I called it. When people ask me, what's that? And it's like, it's a thingy, because I was 8 and not as creative back then. That became my first thingy. I still have that thingy. Later that year, I made another thingy, and I got some felt, and I hand sewed the felt and glued some cotton wool onto the felt, and then stowed or glued, I'm not entirely sure. I attached it somehow onto the bottom, onto like the top of a thingy's head, and I stuffed the Santa hat part, the red part, or the red felt, so it became a bit top heavy and fall over. But every Christmas, my mum still has that thingy that she gets out, like from when I was 8. Okay, let's see how many of the mini gearings we have. Are now up to 261. I should be faster at that, but since my health has deteriorated, my brain ain't as quick as it used to be. So these are party bags. Such a long time since I've made these. Now let's get into some personal projects. Now I have taken out all of my sewing / mending things, because I don't think I'm not going to count them as works in progress, because they're more adjusting something, not really making something. You may have noticed when I was working out when I was saying what is a whip video, that I had this blue jumper thing that was still attached to needles. That is actually finished. I have knitted it, I have blocked it, I have even worn it. The problem is, once I wore it, I realized it needs pockets. Why I didn't think of that beforehand, I don't know. I always use pockets, so I'm going to be adding pockets to it. So I don't know if we should be including that one in, though, because I want to count that one as a finished project, and I'm just adding a little bit on. So I'm going to count that more as a mending adjustment thing pile, rather than like my my whip pile, because it is actually a wearable garment. So I have worn it out multiple times now. Yes, there is a video coming up about that. We have got the party bags done. We have a reversible tote bag for mum. It's even labelled. Cut out, ready to go. I just need to make that. I am making this pattern. I'm adjusting it slightly, so it won't be exactly like it. But I have made a decent start on the mock-up, because I'm not sure I got my sizes right. So this is my mock-up so far. So I've gotten a fair way. This was supposed to be something I was going to make months ago. I foolishly thought that I was going to make it in a couple of days. So I've been experimenting a little bit. I have made a couple of mistakes. You can see here the pocket flap doesn't actually match the pocket. But it's actually not too bad. So I've just got to add arms and a collar, I think, on this one, and then I can do the real one, if I can remember how I made the mock-up. You come to investigate, have you, Yoshi? You come to help? What project are you going to work on? Are you going to work on Mum's reversible tote bag? Yeah. that one's a fairly easy pattern. Yeah. Well, I say pattern. Most of my patterns are up here, not in paper form. And then we have these ones. These ones have taken a little longer than they were supposed to. These were supposed to be finished before Yoshi and Cosmo's first Christmas. This year will be their third. So I'm going to make sure it's finished for their third. We have a tradition in our family of having Santa sacks or stockings for our pets, because we're crazy. We love our animals. They're part of our family. So I have actually finished Cosmo's. So Cosmo's is done. Some fluffy white material, and I'm using some red polar fleece that was left over, reusing that material, and making Santa sacks. And I have custom cross-stitched the little panels. So I have done, that was what actually was taking the most work. So I have actually done that. So my wrist can't stop me on this one now. There's no hand sewing involved, luckily. So I have actually done the custom panels. So I've got one for Bella. There are videos of Bella. That's my sister's dog. I've got one for Turbo, the greyhound. That's my mum's dog, mum and dad's dog. So he's getting one. And then I've got one for Yoshi as well. So I've just got to sew them all together now. So they have the stockings cut out. I do have to still cut out the fluffy stuff, like this stuff. I think that's the one I was practicing sewing on, because sewing with fur can be a nightmare if you're not careful. It gets everywhere, and so you're constantly having to clean out your sewing machine, and you need to be very careful about what needles and things you use, making sure they're strong enough, because I have broken quite a few in my time before I used needles that were strong enough. So I've got 3 of them, because one's already done. So that's another 3 to the list. And we also have a cross stitch panel here, like a table runner. So that's another one there. Another project this has been a project that has taken years and years and years. I started this when I was working at the art gallery. Actually, I may have even started it before then. I remember working on it then, but I may have started it before then. I was working on it when I was at the Royal Society for the Blind. I was working there for a while too. I have worked at so many places. One day I should do a video on just the jobs I've done over the years. When I was working for the Royal Society for the Blind, I started, I would knit this on the bus and through the art gallery time as well. The bus ride was, these were old buses, they were horrible buses, constantly breaking down. But those shock absorbers were non-existent. So you were going the whole time on the bus. So I started knitting. At that point, I was a very good knitter, but I couldn't do it without looking. Some of the clients that use the Royal Society for the Blind services, they had a craft group, and they were knitting and creating the most amazing things. And I was like, wow. And some of those people didn't even start knitting until after they became blind. I was just so impressed with them, and they made such an impression on me that I was determined that if I ever did go blind, that it wouldn't stop me. So I was determined to know how to knit without looking, so that if I ever did go blind later on, I could still do my craft. So now I would practice on the bumpy bus, trying to knit without looking. And I think maybe because it was the bumpy bus that like you just couldn't, it was just awful. But I think maybe because I was doing it on then, it actually made kind of up the hardness level, like and so I now can knit without looking, without any issues. But this is a project that I first learnt how to knit without looking on. And so it was all about learning how to feel for the stitches, and now I do it without even thinking about it. But this one is actually nearly finished, and this is my current project. This is all I have left of the wall. Once that wall's run out, that's it. So I have to try and make sure I leave enough to cast off them. So this is going to be a cat bed. Again, I started this when I first got Yoshi. So this is a spool knitting, also known as French knitting tomboy. So that was another one. So yeah, so that's some spool knitting. That's all the projects that are currently out here. Let's take a walk to the next ones once I put this away. I talk too much because it's nearly 5 o'clock. And you're probably thinking, wait, Jackie, that's not anywhere near 400. Come with me. Now here is my whatchamacallit. Ooh, something fell. That should have glassware and dinnerware and sand, and it does have some of that stuff, but as you can see, it doesn't quite fit, because underneath, yeah, I've got one crowded area of the stuff that should be in here, and underneath is more fabric and more projects, and my camera stuff. My SLR, and my old school cameras, so old film cameras and things. I don't open this often, so Yoshi and now Cosmo's come for an investigation because they're like, oh, what's in here? This looks interesting. Okay, so now we have a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I told you I knew I had a lot in here. These are all cut up and two size, and there's a whole heap more. So it's coming a bit cold now, so I'll just pop the heater and jumper on. I didn't realise I left the back door open. Okay, so these are serviettes. My plan had been to make Christmas crackers, and I was going to do like boxes of Christmas crackers. So I had a plan of who I was going to supply the boxes of. I was looking at the minimum amounts and what I needed to have. I had a plan of what was going in the crackers. They were going to have a hat, a joke, and a sensory toy. So like a sensory keyring, basically. I had a plan of all the different types of keyrings, and that is actually something that I started working on. I'm going to still do the keyrings, and I'm going to do some of these things, but I'm not going to do it on the scale that I originally planned. The whole point of these Christmas crackers was they were sustainable sensory Christmas crackers. So there was no bang, but it did have ribbons and a nice serviette that could be reused every Christmas. It had a key ring that you could use throughout the year, and it had a hat and a joke, and a cardboard insert that was recyclable or reusable. And the ribbons were made with hair ribbons, so that they could be either used for crafting or they could be used for kids' hair or people's hair. I did make some, and I have sold a few over the years, individual ones in the beginning. But in order to get a box, like a company printing the boxes and stuff, you need to have a minimum supply, and that minimum supply is 50. But you can't just make a box of one cracker. You have to have 4 or 6 crackers in there. So 4 times 50 is 200, and I have more than that here. Like I said, I got a fair way in this project, and then my business, my health deteriorated, and my business was no longer business, and it's just not feasible for me to make 200 Christmas crackers. And if you can hear a noise in the background, that would be Cosmo, who's currently sitting in a box trying to dig his way out of it. Scan already. If anyone has any ideas of what I can do apart from serviettes with Christmas material in big squares, let me know, because I'm not sure I want to make over 200 serviettes. I never actually counted. I'm laughing, there wasn't even 200. I have 212 serviettes. So let's add that to my 273 of our running tally. 485 projects so far, and I still have more. I think we're going to hit over 500. I just have a feeling. These are bags I was going to make my mum for her works in progress. And they've ended up in my works in progress pile, and that was some time ago. Thinking there's about 3 that are actually cut up, and I don't know about the rest. So let's just say 3. Sorry, Mum. Okay, so this is full, and then under here, this Daddy's older than me. I can't open it when you're there, Yoshi. You can move out the way for me, do? No? Come on. Yeah, no, I'm not sure when we're going to get this done because Yoshi's decided that hits his new seat. Come on, dude. I really want to do this. How about if I put you down there and then I can get it open? There we go. We have more projects. Some of these are just wool and yarn and things set aside, but there are actually some that I've started in here. There's one more. Another one. It doesn't actually fit anywhere, so it's in my wardrobe. Someone has decided that the blanket box is his now. Is that your new home, is it? Eh? Not tea time yet, dude. You're a little early. Shall we count these first? We have a cross stitch table runner that I'm working on. These are some coasters. This was a present I was making Mum years ago when I was still working. So this was a birthday or Christmas or combined. I'm not sure. I have to add the felt onto some, and on some I have to put it like a top coat, like on the of the stuff on the top. So so I've got 3, 4, 5. But there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know if anyone knows the Finch app. I started making my own Finch plush long before they had their plushes. Oops, sorry, I nearly dropped the phone. So I'm not sure if that will actually ever be finished or not. I was making a pattern for it. I've written down and worked on it and stuff. But yeah, so that's part. Oh no, this is the Finch plush that I was working on. That I don't know if it will even look like a Finch when it's done, but this was the Finch plush I was working on. So that's that one. This is a giant thingy I was working on, a knitted version, which again too, I'm not actually sure if I'm going to be able to physically do it. I put it aside because I was actually struggling with my wrists with the weight of the wool and the yarn as it got more. So yeah, so this was going to be a Finch, and that's going to be a that, and I think this is some sort of baby matinee jacket or something. It was probably for one of my cousin's kids, and the oldest one is 18. Finish off a pattern from a book. A beanie that I never finished because I'm designing my own beanies. A teddy, and I'm not even sure what the yellow one is. These are from when I was working, so this is not a new issue for me. This is a bag of scrap wool. And the reason I've included it is I have made it, like I'm using it, but I'm slow. It's kind of an ongoing project. So it's my lap blanket, scrap blanket. So I've kind of included it because it's kind of an ongoing add to project as we go. So we will include that one as well. And I think that is all my personal projects now. I've officially reached over 500. If you're stuck around, you get a sneak peek at some of my latest prototypes. And I am making animal and little animal key rings. We've got to add the key ring part to these, so these still have to be finished. So it's one series of animal key rings that are going to come out. I've got little elephants, I've got little koalas, little cats, little dogs, little animals. I am working also on trying to perfect my little cockatoo and galah patterns. I'm not sure if they will actually make the cut. My sister wants one, so I'm using hers as my prototype. I did make her one, but then she was devastated because she lost it at Disneyland. These are the animals and the key rings that were going to go into my Christmas crackers. So I had a whole range of about 10 or 12 different types of designs and patterns. I would make duplicates of them, and they were going to go into the Christmas crackers as the prize. So instead of getting like a cheap bit of plastic, you get a key ring that you can use all year round. This is another one. I'm not sure if I'm going to sell these or not. Probably not, because of the amount of work, and I don't think my wrist can actually handle it. This is a beanie, and it has the bits that dangle down, because at the end will be little thingies. One more project to add. Now, the other thing I was thinking when I was putting all my other projects away is I know I have another project somewhere, and it's a very old project. It's probably the oldest unfinished project that I have, and it's bugging me that I don't know where I've put it. When I was 5, I was taught how to knit. During my primary school years at some point, I was also taught how to crochet. Now, my mum was a fantastic knitter. She didn't know as much about crochet, but she knew how to do like a granny square basically. And so we were just making like a granny square blanket type thing, but not like the actual squares. Like it was a granny square that just kept growing out and out and out. So I never learned how to finish off crochet. I am embarrassed to say how long it took me to actually get around to learning crochet properly. So I learned crochet properly, and when I figured out how you finish it off, I was horrified. I was like, oh my god, that's so easy. But I now want to finish that blanket. I've always wanted to finish this blanket. It wasn't very big. It was probably about this big, but I want it to be like a proper big size one. I want to finish this blanket now that I know how to finish it off. But I don't know where I've even put it. So these are embroideries that I inherited. Most of them haven't been started. Most of them are just printed on and are matching sets, because some of them are like matching Soviet sets. I do have some that have finished, so they did finish, but these ones were in the unfinished pile. So these are embroideries that have come from someone in my family. Now, I don't ever remember my nana doing embroidery and this sort of needlework. She was a sewer, but she used a sewing machine usually, an old Singham sewing machine. And so here's another one with a little bird on it. I think on this one the embroidery is finished. It just hasn't the finishing off part hasn't happened yet, so I have to work out how to do that. And because I think what you do is you cut it out close to the edge there, the material, and then you crochet like a border on it, lace border on it. And then there's this one as well. This one hasn't been finished either. It's like it's a loose thread still. So it's like a bunch of little flowers, and yeah, that way. Sorry, I had the wrong way. So a bunch of little flowers on it. So I would love to finish them. I have a feeling they came from one of my great grandparents, but I don't know which one. I intend to finish them. So I'm not going to include them in my WIP count, only because they're not. I didn't start them. It's now nearly 6 o'clock, and we started ages ago. Well, it feels like forever ago. So I'm not going through that again. So my goal now is to, fingers crossed, touch wood, I will try and keep on top of my things and count and take them off. And I'm sure I will start making other sewing projects and things before I finish off all of my current ones. My goal is to try and reduce that number over the next 12 months and see if we can get that down to a more reasonable, manageable number, maybe. I've miscounted somewhere. I haven't done that right. I'm not going to include this because I've missed something. I'm 544 plus 8. So I actually have 552. While I was editing this video, I noticed in the background of one of the shots a project that I'm currently working on, and I forgot to include in the total list. And then I remembered that I also forgot another project that I'm working on. So I need to just add this little bit in at the end to show you that I'm this is my first crochet project where I was ever done. The other one I forgot was my current crochet project that was in my my mobility aid, so the one that I take out with me everywhere, and it's a bag of my own pattern. So I have gone from not knowing how to do any crochet to now I'm designing my own crochet patterns. So here is my non-binary bag that I'm working on, and the evening I was a little bit inspired by all of the things that we were doing, and instead of finishing off a project, I may have started another one. So I'm creating a top, a short sleeve top with this particular wool. I'm just doing the gauge swatch at the moment, but I'm quite liking the way the pattern's turning out. I'm sure it's going to take me a very long time at 10 minutes a day, but it's a challenge I'm up to. So that brings our total up then to 555 works in progress. I will just add that 517 of those are my sensory related products. So my personal, what I would call my personal works in progress list is 38 plus my 3 inherited whips. So that seems probably a far more manageable, realistic number. I was actually a little surprised because I was expecting my personal list to be a lot higher. So I'm actually impressed that I've managed to keep it at a reasonable amount. I'm curious, how much do you have? What's your works in progress number looking like?